What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Platform Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Dex. We are coming back after a little hiatus. Took some time off, was just a little busy DJing, working the day job too. But we're gonna be back with another good couple weeks of episodes. Shooting one today here back at the house. We got a very special guest on the show. We've had a lot of DJs on the show. Today we have a DJ, but not just a DJ, also a producer, and dipping into the photography, videography. Xander, welcome to the show, man.
How we doing?
We're doing good.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
It's good to be here. Also, just
Absolutely.
meet other people in Nashville in the creative community, stuff like that. Happy to talk about it.
Yeah, I got kind of set up with you. I met Jack a couple weeks ago at Almost Friday, just picking up DJing after him.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Because he texted me and he was like, "Oh yeah, someone's gonna reach out to you," but I called him about it, and then he's like, "I'm DJing at Only Fire, bro." And I was like,
Yeah.
all right, whatever. He'll text.
So
me.
I saw like when he was opening up for Steve Aoki the other week.
Yeah.
And then you did a lot of his videography and everything for that. And I kind of asked him, like, I was like, "Yo, who did all this for you?" And he linked me up with you, and I was like, "Oh, cool." I'm like, I've been wanting to get kind of like that side of the industry on the pod to just kind of talk a couple topics with that, and then went to finally like contacting you, getting to know you too, where it's like, "Oh, cool, you're doing even more. You're DJing, you're producing,
more than
like,
meets the eye.
yeah." So it was good. I'm glad that we got linked up, and then now we're able to sit down and talk. So, yeah, kind of getting into it. Let's find out a little bit about you, man. What got you into what you're doing now? Obviously, big music background, I'm assuming, getting you into the
exactly.
DJ and producing life. So, how'd
Yeah.
it start? Where are you from?
Where
Tell
am I
us
from?
everything.
Here, yeah. You want to know? Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Start at day one.
Yeah, day one.
Yeah.
Mom. No, I'm just kidding. Was born and raised in New York, just about like hour and a half north of New York City.
Yep.
Right. Spent my whole life there, actually. Same house and whatnot. And then, my mom's a music teacher, so she went to college for music education and saxophone performance.
Okay.
Those were her majors. And so, a lot of it's genetic, which is a weird thing, but like everyone has natural abilities you're born with. Some people are bigger, right, or stronger, right? Some people are just smarter in different areas, right? For me, it was just one of those things early on. Like I could just pick up on music quite easily, and then she put us in a private lessons for piano when we were younger, probably like first, second grade, and then once you get to pick an instrument in fourth grade, I chose the trombone because it was the most loud and obnoxious one, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I like that."
How much can you piss off your parents?
Oh,
All right.
absolutely,
Yep.
a good amount to say. So I picked that, and then I just got involved kind of from there. But it was just one of those things like in fourth grade, you first time pick up a trombone, and then I start learning it. Then I'm playing with the fifth grade band instead of the fourth grade band too, right? Just like one of those things I feel like about my personality as well is just I've always been a quick learner.
Yeah.
And just picking things up, which you'll see is quite evident on the rest of the stuff we'll go through. So yeah, that's where it started. And then I played trombone all the way up, still to this day, but all the way out through, middle school, high school, playing in different ensembles, whether it's like your traditional concert band, Philharmonic orchestras, jazz band, Latin ensembles, like
Holy shit.
brass quartet, singing choir, everything, you know? And then through that, picking up on a lot of different instruments. So, to this day, I wouldn't say like I play guitar, but I can play the guitar, right? I'm not a guitar. That's what it is. I'm not a guitar player, but I can play the guitar, right? But my main instruments would be like brass, I would say, brass instruments.
So what all do you play?
Go down the
Like,
list.
do you play the sax?
No, I can't. No.
Okay.
So
I
woodwinds are a different story. So
Yeah.
Start with trombone, and then there's something called like the baritone horn or euphonium, and so it's the same sound as a trombone with valves, right? And it kind of looks like a mini tuba. I think it was like in middle school, the band needed that part done, and I was just like, fuck it, right? I'll pick it up. So I taught myself like the different like valve fingering to do it, and the next, I could play that, and then I was playing.
Yeah, but then you got to go and buy one too.
No, school.
Oh, school. All
give
right.
him, yeah.
I was like, dude, my sister played violin, and then like another played cello, and the other one played trumpet. And it's like, I remember my sister buying a violin, and the shit was so expensive.
Yeah, it depends on the school district,
Yeah.
right? But like ours would always have the instruments, right?
Okay.
And they give it to you. As you got older, you might have bought your own
Yeah.
just because of like, you know, the level you need to play at. But we'll go with this list again. But these are instruments I can play,
Yeah.
right? I wouldn't say that like I am a blank player, right?
Yeah.
But so trombone, right? Baritone or euphonium, trumpet, tuba, bass guitar, I play guitar, drums, right? Things like that. Even, I don't know, can makeshift a French horn if you need me to. Like, they're all pretty relative.
Fucking utility man over here. There we go.
So yeah, mainly in that realm.
Yeah.
And then kind of how that like transitioned to today with like the whole music story thing. Once I got to college, you couldn't take like a music class and count for your gen ed art credit, which I thought was the dumbest thing.
Yeah.
And so you had to have like classroom instruction. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, so I could go in there playing like a top, you know, orchestra or band, right? Ensemble. And you're gonna say, no, you still have to take like music theory 101 or like some random art because to count for your
even
like,
though you
degree.
literally know how to fucking
I'm just
play
like,
already.
oh my God. So then I just didn't bring my trombone, right? Took a gen ed art credit.
Yeah.
And then I noticed like after my freshman year, I was kind of like, something doesn't feel right. You know, I'm kind of like itching for something. And I just realized like my whole entire life, every day, I was playing music to some capacity.
Yeah.
Right. And that's from literally what, 4th grade until that day and point when I did freshman year of college.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, holy shit, like I need to do something. Then obviously you go to parties, see people DJing, and I was like, whoa, that looks cool, right? Look at those buttons and all that stupid stuff you think when you first see a DJ.
Like, damn, that dude is really turning the fuck out of those knobs.
Yeah, but in reality, then I had a friend explain to me, Rob Matz, shout out Rob Matz. He had what, the tractor like S2, or I think, or no, he had a Newmark like way back then. And so he was teaching me how to DJ, and I bought a tractor. My, I want to say like sophomore year. I want to, probably.
Where'd you go to school at?
Buffalo, University of Buffalo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. The Bulls?
Yeah, go Bulls.
Yeah.
Horns up, baby.
Yeah. I have a friend that plays, she just switched over there playing basketball over there.
Oh, yeah. They have a great program.
Yeah.
Yeah. Felicia over there, good coach.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, back into the, DJing. So he was teaching me how to DJ. And then outside looking in, like you think it's impossible. And then he's explaining it to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it makes no sense. But he's never been musically inclined. He's someone who just learned how to DJ. So when he's referring to like phrasing,
how he's coaching it, yeah,
and telling me, okay, so like I'm like, how do you mix in a song? He's like, okay, see this thing where like the color changes on the track, you do that. I'm like, that makes no sense. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then finally, after what was like 6 hours, then I picked up on it, and I was just like, oh, we're trying to speak the same language. You can't. I'm like, that's just 8 measures.
Yeah.
And then I'm like,
you're just like,
all
just
you have
count
to do
the
is
music.
count 8 measures before.
Yeah.
Mash BPM. I'm like, oh. And then I think that Friday, I'd like DJ my first party.
Yeah.
Smashed.
See, I would think like someone like you coming with that much of a music background and playing instruments, like you know how to count the music. You can count to fucking 4.
Oh yeah.
Like for you, I feel like it would be very easy to pick up if you have the right person explaining it to you.
Yeah, but well, I didn't in the moment, but that's what it like made me appreciate it. Is like anyone can enjoy music, whether you have like a proper regimented, like classically trained background, or you're just someone who likes it, right?
Yeah.
And you just learn your own way, but you're still speaking the same language.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happened there. So I pick up DJing, right? And then do that all throughout college. But then I quickly realized, and I'm just like, oh, this is just too easy almost. Like I need a bigger challenge. So after I graduated, I moved back home, and then that's when I got Ableton.
Yeah.
And like this is probably the best decision I made in my life. But I lived at home for like 7 months. And I told my parents, I'm like, I'm going to learn how to produce music before I take my big boy job. Why? I don't want to sit there, go to work, and then after be like, oh, I'm going to teach myself how to produce.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I want to be able to work and then go home and write music, like not have to dilly-dally. And then I would say like each day, only 3 things I did was like go to the gym, eat, and then work in Ableton. So like I would 16 hours a day. I think I just sat there, parents' basement, and just constantly like learning. And then finally after like give or take like 3-4 months, I was like, all right, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like, let's do this. Started applying for jobs, got one, and then kind of the rest took over. And
so, couple questions.
yeah, I know there's
one.
one. Just giving the full shebang
that's
there.
perfect. So when you were doing Ableton, first off, like what made you go to Ableton over some of the other DAWs out there?
Honestly, it's just what, like, you got to think of a tutorial base. I was like, I want to get into this. What do other people use, right?
Yep.
And then it was Ableton. And then I took a music production course in college my senior year. And so then I just used the trial version of Ableton.
Did they use Ableton like in the class?
Yeah.
Okay.
So then that's what happened.
So how did you go about teaching yourself? Were you just like YouTubing the shit out of everything or what?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And like the way I ultimately approached it is, like at that point would I have like, I don't know, 14 years, 16 years of like classically trained experience, right? So I know music very well.
Yeah, you're already ahead of the curve that way.
But producing is not music. Like in my eyes, like learning how to produce is learning an instrument. Just like if you had to say, I want to learn the guitar, right? You have to learn the computer, basically. And so that's how I viewed it. And so, doesn't matter what DAW you're in, like an EQ is always going to do the same thing, right? Reverb's always going to do the same thing. You just have to know how to work a DAW. Now, inside a DAW, you have a lot of different choices. So it's like a bunch of instruments within an instrument.
Yeah.
And so rather than being like, oh, I'm just going to learn how to make like bass house, like Jaws back in the day, or like all these other things, it was just like understanding the fundamentals, right? I already knew all the sounds in my head. I just couldn't translate them into a DAW.
To put them on.
So that's kind of what I worked at, right? And just YouTube University. I had good friends. One of my buddies, Jamie Hamburg, he was he went to Berkeley for guitar performance and also like mixing and production. Yeah. But he was a guitarist his whole life, phenomenal player. But he had a lot of like technical knowledge of producing, which I didn't, right? I didn't know what a compressor did or all this stuff. I didn't know what a mix down was, like all this stuff. So he gave me more of that like traditional production guidance while I was just like researching, EDM loud noises and just doing all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I always look at that like, because everybody uses, I mean, even from a DJ standpoint, like whether you're using Serato, whether you're using Tractor, whether you're using Record Box. And then as far as like a producer standpoint, it's like, all right, cool. Are you using Pro Tools, Ableton, Logic, like all that kind of stuff of what you're actually using. But yeah, I know that kind of got you into that production realm. Talking about going into getting that job, what did you end up getting a job with?
So I moved to Phoenix, Arizona. Yeah. I was a hedge fund analyst. So I went to school for finance, right, all that stuff. I wanted
John Summit over here doing the accounting. And,
John Summit before John Summit. Yeah. No, I went to school for finance, University of Buffalo, and then I just wanted to drop out the whole time. Yeah. Because I was just like, this is a waste of time. Once I found out, I was like, I want to be like an EDM artist, right? Yeah. I was just like, I'm wasting my time. But then ultimately it came down to, I realized if I just stuck through college, right, got it over with, that I'd shut my parents up, right? Yeah. And then like starting production 2-3 years earlier would not change or outweigh, in this case, like a lifelong with my parents, like, you should have finished college, right? Like, and all that stuff.
Every Thanksgiving, just
well,
maybe if you finish school.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I've seen that firsthand, like within my own, direct family, and it's just like I don't want that, right? So I just kind of grinded through that. 2.9 GPA, just got out of the way. We're
just throwing it out there so everybody knows.
Not an all-star. C's do get degrees. Yeah, that's a facts, absolutely. But and then we made it out, and then so we go to Arizona, right? And I had a best friend from Buffalo who lived out there at the moment. Yeah. And then also I researched, and like their EDM scene was phenomenal. And so I viewed it as two ways. I could grow as an artist, right? There's a lot of peers around me who are also young artists, like, and there was a like environment, right? And even like a culture within Phoenix that catered towards dance music, right? And I was like, this would be a cool spot to kind of just kick off and launch everything. So then, that was the next step.
And then a lot warmer weather than Buffalo.
Oh yeah, no, not freezing your dick off.
No
in
fucking snowstorms every year where you're getting
10 months of winter. Yeah, and you're from Chicago, so you know that.
I'm from Milwaukee, but my parents live in Chicago. But yeah, it's the same shit. Yeah,
no more -40.
Yeah, that's like one of the nicest parts about living here now is a nice fucking 80-degree day today. So it's perfect. So then you stayed out there in Phoenix for a little while, and then what brought you to Nashville?
Or
how long have you even been here?
Yeah, I've been here just a little over a year. Moved here March 19th and 22. Yeah. But let me see. So after Phoenix, spent about 2.5 years there. that was like a weird adult transition period. Basically, I get there, I have 1 year of like my first year of adulthood. You're making money, right? Like I'm also producing music, like networking. It feels great. And then like boom, COVID, world shuts down. And I'm just like, right? And so then I'm working a job.
Back to square one.
Yeah, working a job that I fucking hated. We're working from home. And then I think I fell under this trap of like working too hard and not doing the routine that I had, which was like working out, socializing, eating well.
Yeah.
And I never realized this too, but then like after working a job I hated and I was already in this, all right, whatever, suck it up. I'll just work there for a couple years, make it look good. By the way, fuck that. Don't do that. If you hate it, quit. So I did that. And then I had a roommate at the time. Her name is Lay, actually. And she was like 20 years old, moved in. She was going to ASU.
Yeah.
It was me. And then the homeowner who was like 28 years old. It was the most random crew you could ever imagine. Yeah. And so Lay and I were obviously just became friends because like this 20-year-old
live together,
fucking weird, right? Yeah. And so it was a sick house though. So I wasn't too mad. And she'd always be like, dude, you're getting so skinny. And I'm like, no, I'm not. But I'm 6'4", and at that time I was probably like 260.
Yeah.
But like when you have a big frame, like, and you're tall, it's hard to notice differences in weight. And I was just like, for months, she'd be like, you're getting skinny, you're getting skinny. I'm like, no, I'm not. So finally I weighed myself and I went from 260 to 220.
Yeah.
So I lost like, oh no, I think it was like 212.
So 50 pounds. Oh yeah.
50 plus pounds, right? Just from not eating, right? Not working out. And then just like,
just because you were working the day job?
Working the day job, working long hours, producing. And then I was like, finally, like thankfully I got laid off because of COVID from there. And it was kind of like a second chance, honestly, with everything. And I realized I was like, I was depressed doing that shit. And I was like, I was so unhappy. I didn't like the people in Arizona. But that's because I'm a New Yorker and we're just very opposite. And then I was just like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? Yeah. And so then I moved back to my parents' house and then I picked up a job in tech sales, right? Yeah. Working for DocuSign. Loved it, right? Yep. Shout out.
I was like, is that the shirt?
Free promo.
I was like, yeah.
Got the sweatshirt for being a top performer. Coziest sweatshirt of my life.
Yeah. It's a fucking nice hoodie.
Yeah, dude. Thick material too. So I started in February or March. Yeah. Started in March. So then I'm working from home. I'm with my parents. And even though I'm like in my hometown, thought I would hate it. I loved it. Got along with my parents, like, because they treat you as a friend, not like a child anymore. Yeah. We kicked it.
You're just a roommate now.
Yeah, no, I was kicking it, free rent, and I was making like 110 a year.
Yeah.
Like living in my parents' house. It was great. Stacking money for the first time ever, right? Loved the job. And then that translated to music too, because like, you know how it is with sales, right? No one's buying shit after 4 p.m. So it's just like, you're sprinting from 9 to like 2:30 every day. So I wasn't working late hours, right? And I was getting rewarded and all this stuff. And so then as I was working from home, I would visit places, right? Probably like once every 3 months. And I would visit Nashville a couple times because I already knew Jack, who you mentioned earlier, right? From Buffalo and that small network. And then Jack introduced me to like people like my roommate Dennis currently and other people like a friend of mine, Simon Vexus, who's a dubstep artist here. So I kind of made like friends with his network just from visiting. And then I always loved it here. Right? It was such a good time. Like people are nice, right? Cheap cost living, no state tax. Shout out that, right? And then I remember Dennis, I was talking to him on the phone. I'm like, yeah, I kind of want to move. I was in some situationship that ended. I was like, fuck that girl, whatever, right? And then he was like, I think our other roommate's moving out. I was like, oh,
come down here,
right? Yeah. And then the next day, we hop on the phone. We're chopping it up, having deep life talk. And he's like, yeah, he said he's leaving at the end of the month. And he was like, how soon can you be down here? And at this point, I had no plans to move. Like, again, I was like looking at it and I was like, got a lot of money in the bank account, right? I can be around similar-minded, creative people.
Damn, just calling them close-minded.
And then close-minded fucks. No. And I was like, yeah, like this is perfect, right? Yeah. And this is what I learned with Arizona. If you move out to a place and you don't like it, as long as like everything's okay back home, like New York's not going to fall off the map. Parents are still
you can
there.
always still just go back.
You can always just hit the reset, right? Yeah. And so I was like, if I don't like Nashville, always go back home, right? And figure it out. And I'm very, thankful for that, obviously, to have that as backup. But, and then I just came here. I think after that call, I hung up. I went upstairs to my parents and I said, so guys, I'm moving to Nashville. And they're like, oh, like, I mean, maybe we thought you'd get out of the house, but like, I didn't know it'd be, like that. And they're like, when are you moving? And I was like,
end of this month.
In a week and a half. And they're like, what? That's kind of how I just go with my life.
Yeah.
I call it like a calculated YOLO. Like I knew I had friends, network, made sense music, right? Cost of living, everything. And I could work remote. And then it was just like, yeah, it's a risk. But at the same time, I was like, I knew I'd like it. And so that was a year ago and haven't looked back since.
Yeah. Damn. I like that. A calculated YOLO. Yeah, we moved here August. It was mid-August because she was going to school out here, got accepted. She was looking at a couple different places. She was in school at ASU because she had to take she had to take a couple online classes. So then it was between kind of like there, Vanderbilt and Lipscomb, and they just kind of dropped one of the programs that she was looking for. I was basically like, cool, I'll do fucking any of those, whether it's Nashville or Arizona. I would love either one.
Oh yeah, great time.
And
tough choice.
Yeah, I was like, money. We'll do either one. But yeah, like kind of what you were talking about, just being able to move in with people that are similar minded as what you are and like kind of what you're wanting to do musically. That's where like moving here and meeting so many other people that are more talented than like just a DJ.
Oh yeah.
Where I feel like so many people here do so much more, where it gives you that push, like fuck, like I have to, you have to do more.
Yeah.
Like you can't just DJ. You kind of got to expand and do a little bit more than that. So it's been awesome to get that kind of push, and then hopefully get started learning a lot more. Because like getting in the production realm of things is something that I've always like wanted to do, and just kind of in Milwaukee just never got the extra push to kind of to go for it. Where now here, I feel like I definitely am getting the push, and then going back to school for it now. So
oh really?
It's gonna be awesome. Yeah. I
Where
started at Belmont.
What's fucking tuition there? Not like like no.
So
if you're an adult, we'll just not leave. We'll
if
leave numbers
you're not
out.
an adult, it's like $60,000 a year.
If you're an adult who's not boarding, right, and it's just paying for classes, what are we expecting? 20, 10? A year, not a semester.
A year?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, over 20.
Over 20.
Yeah.
Damn.
Like my summer alone, I want to say is like 9 for just like summer semester. And then like fall, same thing. So,
are you doing a full bachelor's or is it like a different?
Yeah.
Did you go to college?
No. I went to UWM in Milwaukee. And then I went to Oshkosh and I fucking dropped out of both of them. I went to UWM for like 6 months and then was an idiot and just fucking 18-year-old and just was like, yeah, I'm out of here. So.
Yeah. So you work at Apple now, but is that not the dream you want to like use music to leverage something?
No, so that's like a big part of like why obviously like for me wanting to go back to school, like you're in the area now where you have such a higher level of schooling around music. Like Belmont is one of the more prestigious schools for music. So when we first moved here, I like started looking at it because I knew I wanted to go back to school just to be able to kind of learn a little bit more for music production. And then looking into it, I was like, fuck, this is perfect. We're here now. Like, why wouldn't I kind of utilize it? And then with working where I work, they pay for school too. So you get an amount per
Apple
year.
gives you reimbursement?
Yeah. So you get $5,000 a year.
Okay. So like, summer 9-5 you're looking for.
Yeah, and then Belmont does it where they discount, so they're discounting almost 50% if you're above 25. So then now what I'm going for is music business with an emphasis on music production, so that way I can take all of the music production classes that I want, but then also I have a minor in design communications because graphic design, this kind of stuff, like setting up all these cameras and being able to do editing, all that kind of stuff is something that's always been an interest of mine, as just like a side hobby, where I look at it as for myself as a DJ, that's all stuff that's just going to help me in my regular job too, where if I get really good at that graphic design stuff, that's something where I can make extra money on the side, making flyers for venues, other DJs, all that kind of stuff. Start making like EPKs for people.
That's kind of the source of how I got on this pod anyway. Yeah. That's what you're made for. We'll go into that later, but that's okay. I'm getting your story now, though.
Yeah.
I'm interviewing you, I guess.
But then now like the music business side of things too is where I'm like, cool, if I learn all this stuff, like how to properly distribute songs and learning all the copyright rules and music law, like all that kind of stuff, that's where I would want to work in like a Spotify and Apple Music, all that kind of stuff. Obviously would be like one of my bigger goals, like outside of DJing, is picking up like a job. Like there's a headquarters for Apple Music here in Nashville. Would love to do something with them, or for me, like having my podcast, like this podcast, but then having my DJ mix show for the platform. I look at stuff like what they have out, being able to kind of like run a show for like a Sirius XM or something like that, where like that would be awesome to be able to kind of just just run one of those shows, like whether it's an everyday or a once a week, something like that, and just kind of take that over and make that a job would be pretty sick. Like I look at like Ward Gunther here that runs fucking Whiskey Jam, killing it with that, and then he has his show on Apple Music Monday through Thursday, where he has like a 2-hour show on Apple Music Country.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, I don't listen to Apple Music stuff because I've been chronic Team Spotify. Yeah. Sorry for your company to work for.
It's all good. Yeah. So that's kind of what pushed me to go back to school for it, and then hopefully, obviously, the music production stuff is. There's so many connects here in Nashville. Even just like talking to you and going over how much you know about it, it's like you can pick people's brains. And I feel like most of the people that I've talked to since moving here are more than willing to like lend a hand and be like, oh, cool, like come over. We'll go over this. Like, and just.
I was literally about to say, I'll save you tuition. Yeah. I teach music lessons. So.
Yeah. See, and that's where like I talked to a couple people and they're like, why do you even like just go fucking YouTube the shit? And I'm like, oh, well, if I'm here, I can get a little bit of it paid for. Like, I have no problem just.
Well, I think the other part that other people won't realize is like you didn't get a bachelor's degree. So like, just what I said before, like maybe your parents are doing the same thing, right? Peers, but it's also like some people can be self-conscious. Not saying you are, but like it's one of those things. It's like, geez, like everyone has a bachelor's degree and I don't, and I'm this old. Like, it's almost like a notch you can just check off, and you're kind of like, all right, you feel better about yourself.
There's just like jobs that I look at.
There's also that judgment too, right?
Well, it's like you literally can't even get it in the door for an interview
because you don't have
a fucking degree.
By the way, so fucking
it's
dumb.
The dumbest shit ever.
Because there's so many independent like creators who do a million times better of a job than any big corporation does, right? But they're like, oh, gotta go to college, gotta
not
this,
qualified,
right?
yeah.
Fuck that.
Yeah. But yeah, it should be good. But yeah, that's something that I know I want to link up with a lot more people in the city here. And just like sit in and fucking work.
Well, come the fuck over. You know? Like I mean
I will,
I'm genuine about this too, though. I'm not to say like don't go to college, but like quite personally, I know people who were 10 times more musically talented than me who went to Berkeley, and they're like, no, it was just like it's a network, right?
Yeah.
It's just in a way like a title that can add to it, but there wasn't anything net new that they went to Berkeley or like went to a school for Belmont for that they didn't have already or the capacity to have, right? It just kind of like adds a little bit more professionalism to their craft. But in the reality, like the price tag you pay for it, it's kind of like,
was it worth it?
Was it really worth it?
Yeah.
Which is why, like, whatever you learn and you want to do, like, I could get you there 100 times quicker.
Yeah.
But you got to also keep in mind,
drop out of school right now.
My mom's a music teacher, right? So, like, I would even on the summers in college, or not summers, winters, we had a long winter break. I would stub at my mom's elementary school because, first of all, school districts are always desperate for subs, right?
Yeah.
They pay well. All you need to do is be getting a bachelor's degree, right, to be a substitute teacher. Oh. And then I had nothing to do for like a month and a half, right? Yeah. My mom views it as like, okay, if I have to prep for like the winter school, like what is it, sing along or all this stuff and do all this, I can hire my son as a substitute music teacher and he can pick up the lesson plan, right? Because I don't know if you remember back in the day, you got a sub, right? What does it mean? You watch a movie, right? Or you don't do
every
anything.
day. Yeah.
No, I walk in there and then I'm just like, all right, cool. Let's pick back up where I left off. And so, you know, and you just have that blood in you, right?
Yeah.
From like an education thing. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about learning too, is because you can't teach if you can't learn, right? In the same way, because it's two ways, right? what you're teaching might not be relevant, but also how you're connecting with a a
students
student
or
or
whoever,
who
yeah.
you're teaching,
Yeah.
right? You need to be able to like adapt to that and
Yeah.
feel that. And so then I think about the ways that I learn personally, right? And I apply that to how I teach other people
Yeah.
from producing. And it's not that my way is the best way, but here's a good example. People are always like, oh, how do you get a good mix down? Like, and it's like, I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, you just got to listen to it, right? Well, no
Yeah.
shit, you got to listen to it, but you need to recognize how you can listen to that. And so everyone's a visual learner,
Yeah.
right? For the most part. So there's tools you can get that will visually show you what things are coming out of your speakers so that you can train your ears, right? Rather than just sitting through there and just guessing and not getting any progress. So it's even like little things like that, right? That do small margins. But yeah, no, like I'm serious. I do affordable rates for lessons, do them virtually, but even if you just want to come through as a homie, come through the studio, like I can get you there.
But yeah, for you, I mean, you're working on a lot right now, obviously from photography, videography, DJing, all that kind of stuff. You started up the Xandr project. I mean, what kind of talk about a little bit of like getting that all started, and just kind of your whole vision with the Xandr branding.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, with Xander, which is Xndr period, quite honestly, like names don't matter. And I feel like everyone's just under this constant pressure. Oh, what's my artist name gonna be? I gotta be this. Oh, it's gonna be sick, right? Change it a million times. Like there's someone who's a famous dubstep DJ whose name is Funtcase, which is, you know, bleep it out, cunt face backwards, right? It does not matter what your name is, right? As long as it's not anything tremendously offensive, right? Or, you know, like too far out there where like you're gonna ruin some people and their liking towards you, you're fine. Just make music, put out content, market yourself, brand yourself, right? It doesn't matter. And so for me, I'm kind of one of those people where I do my best work, I wouldn't say winging it, but like on the fly, right? And kind of like that. So when I viewed what's my artist name going to be, I'm like, all right, drop the vowels, put a period, lowercase, next step. It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
The other thing too I thought about is just like, how many times do people go in and like, I don't know, for example, like Tiesto, like the whole rest of his life, Tiesto, like, I don't know his real name, but let's say it's Dylan. It's like, you know how many people like are actually going up to him and be like, what's up, Dylan, right? And then it's just like, no, it's Tiesto. You're forever known as this other person. Makes you easier to stand out too, in my opinion. It's like, oh, your artist name is Xander. What's your name? Xander. Call me Xander. It's just one thing across the board. Oh, what is my video project? It's Xander Flicks, right? It's the same thing. It's just like, so what's your name? Xander. Oh, right. And they all kind of tie in together, right?
Yeah.
So that's really what like the name kind of started. Keep things simple. But really, where my vision came from for like the whole Xander project on the music side of things was with my experience of playing in so many ensembles, and I loved every style of music, not just from like a performance, just listening. Like it could be rap, country, classical music, jazz, right? All these things. I didn't care. So when I look at EDM, which at the time, what is this, 2018? It's not as diverse genre-wise and style-wise. So it's very like a pigeonhole approach. And so I was kind of like, I don't want to just sit here and say, oh, I'm going to be the next biggest deep house artist, right? Or like, oh, I want to be like a dubstep one. I just kind of liked it all, right? And so that's what my mindset was with producing and teaching myself. It's just, if you can learn what goes into every genre, you're going to be well prepared to create for just whatever you want to make.
Yeah.
Where if you only know how to make deep house, what if you want to take other sound design influences? What if the world shifts to a more like industrial and like grungy garage feel, right? And like the big trend in house, and you have no idea how to produce that, right? You're late to the trend, right? All these things. So then I think at the time, good artist examples were like Dylan Francis and Diplo, right? But then as I kind of started working more on music, Nitty Gritty really started getting up and popping off. And those, like, especially Nitty Gritty, were probably like the top influences where I'm like, oh, look at this. Like Nitty Gritty does not have a genre associated with them. He started in bass music, but like then he was making, you know, bass house, then he was doing tech house, doing trap, dubstep, right? And so his marketability was just that much bigger from an audience pull, right? And all these things. Look at Dylan Francis, right? He's made everything under the sun. Diplo, what genre is he?
That's what I was gonna like. That was the first one that came to mind. It's like obviously he just dropped a fucking country album again, and then like you look at everything that he's done from Moombahton stuff to fucking obviously house,
pop,
house, yeah.
But again, someone's going to tell you when you're starting an artist career, like, you got to pick one style and stick with that, or else nobody will like you.
Yeah.
And it's like, rules were meant to be broken. And also think about there's so much music being thrown at you that like the listener base has just grown in their taste. So all the people were like, oh, I only like this genre and I'll never listen to anything else, are kind of like, yeah, that kind of smacks, right?
Yeah.
Like, because it's art. Everyone can appreciate
Well, 'cause
everything.
as soon as that one artist that they like hops
Yeah.
over, like, and it crosses
Right
over, then they're
over.
like, damn, all right, cool, I'm on board with this now.
Yeah. And so that's where it started for me. I never had that vision of doing one genre. I just like, yeah, it's all going to be EDM at the end of the day. But just how Nitty did it, right? It's just when he drops his song, regardless of the genre, you know it's going to be a banger.
Yeah.
Right. And then I worked hard, obviously, at that and had a lot of past music experience where I could say, yeah, I can just crank out bangers across genres. Right. And then the rest kind of ties into like what journey you're taking your listeners on. Because there is an art to it. You know, Dylan Francis just didn't release one of every genre, right? And like a spin a wheel. Like, yeah, there was his Moomba phase, right? There was his house phase, right? There was his pop trap phase, like same with Diplo. They kind of ride different waves as they come along and do their own things, right? So it's like a calculated.
But at least they know how to they know how to do it, and they know how to navigate and market it when they jump into those different.
And there's a reason why those people have the legacy they do, because genres die out, right? They've adapted to every trend, stayed relevant, and there's a reason why their bank accounts are lined with sheets, right? But you also got to look at it from a pop production phase. Like Diplo's a great example too. Whether he's credited or not, right, on like a feature artist, he's hopping in so many productions. Look at Fred again too, right? Fred again, sure, face of like the EDM world too. But like, what was it, 2022 or 2021? Out of the top 100 Billboard, he had 30% of the songs he had credits in. So like, this guy, do the math, right? If you have 30 songs in the top 100 of the year,
all street,
minimum of 100 mil, and you got 10% of that, like, have yourself a payday.
Yeah, you're doing all right.
And then like, but you got to keep in mind, doing a career as an artist and touring, it's expensive. There's a lot of overhead, a lot of people to pay off, and so them having that as a baseline set of like revenue stream, right, for everything else, right? It's kind of like a self-sustaining thing. They're producing already for their main project, doing pop production and hopping in. Super simple for them, right? They're the creative trendsetters in a way, and then they're just getting that safety income like coming back. So that's kind of why I have this open face vision, and honestly aspire to do the same, whether it's hopping in on pop production, right, credited or uncredited, or just making different genres. And so that's what we do, man.
Yeah. So are you writing too, or do you just do a lot of like production stuff?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I do songwriting from like a lyric point of view.
Yeah.
I've just always been someone who listens to music and hears the instrumental.
Yeah.
And I don't hear vocals. And so it's really tough with like paying attention to a good lyrical story.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you what makes good lyric writing versus bad lyric writing, but fortunately I've had a set of like songwriter friends, like Gia, as an example for one. Like I would always go to her, have a song, but have like writing already done to it, and then go to her because I trust her and be like, okay, how do we make this better, right? And have people like that who have helped me realize like what makes that good. And so now I can go with someone and singer songwriter, have them top line, and then I could just do a session mode and be like, all right, I want to change these lyrics, right? And then boom, like plug it in. So yeah, do a little bit of that, but yeah, mostly production stuff, I'd say.
Yeah, I went through like some of your stuff. I really liked that one of the ones that you had on your Instagram, going through it. It was called To the Light.
To the Light?
To the Light.
Disco Tech House one.
That was that little like disco house one, and I liked how you branded it too. When I was like going through your Instagram and stuff, how you're kind of just walking around Broadway. And
that was so funny.
Just having people like listen to it. It made me think of like how the fucking Titans just drop their video like walking around Broadway, and they're like, oh, like what's the logo? But I feel like there's so many ways that people can do that with how fucking insane Broadway is all the time, and I think that's a perfect way to do it, and to get your music out to just everybody that's just walking down the street.
Oh yeah, everyone's there having a good time.
Yeah,
might as well.
But it's cool to see like the reactions from it too.
Dude, I ran into that Elvis guy actually, funny enough, like a couple months ago, but he was in street clothes.
Oh,
I was walking with a buddy. We were downtown, like right by the Opera Building, right, like beforehand. So I was walking with my buddy who was visiting in town, back from the car, right, or back to the car, and then I'm walking by and I see this dude, and he kind of like waves at me. I give him a nod, and I'm like staring at him, like, And I go, I know you. And I'm thinking in my head, like, is it music? Is it like video work, right?
Yeah.
Like, is he a celebrity? And then I'm trying to click, and my buddy goes, it's Elvis. And it just clicks, and I'm like, oh, that's that motherfucker who did like the Elvis impersonation of that video. And so we caught up with him. Such a nice guy, like genuine and all this stuff. He was out in the streets, like doing Elvis impersonation for years, right? He said, and he did it to a point where now he doesn't have to go out on Broadway, right?
Yeah.
And he just gets hired for private events. Does
That's
all
so
that stuff.
fucking
And so then I
crazy.
showed him the video. I was like, yeah, we did like a decent amount of views across like Instagram and TikTok. You know what I mean? And I showed him. He's like, dude, that's awesome. And so I got his number. Cool guy. Yeah. So random though.
Just fucking randomly running into him. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, right now it is obviously you're talking about branching off and being able to be versatile between all these different genres. Do you have like what's your go-to?
I don't know.
That's what I figure. Like with what you're saying, just being so open to kind of everything. I don't know if you had like a go-to.
No.
Like, what do you like to play when you're DJing?
Well, it depends, right? Because like, am I DJing as like an artist performance, or if I'm DJing as like, you know, you can make money off it, right?
Yeah.
So we open format. But if it's like a show, I'd like to say I hit a good amount of like BPMs. Oh, a good artist we left out, obviously the king of it all, Skrillex. Like, what the fuck is a genre, that guy, right? I saw him live. He played 5 hours, and there wasn't a genre in music he didn't hit. Yeah, he didn't hit, and nonstop, like fluid. I wouldn't say I'm as chaotic as like that from a style, but I would say just blending sounds between like house, right? Melodic based stuff, elements, right? And then something, I don't know. I'll sum it up this way. Shit that tickles the ears in a way. It's not you're used to traditional stuff, but you're like, oh shit, that's nasty, right? So like whether it's producing music or like performing as a DJ, I'll play the songs and make the songs for the 10% of the motherfuckers who get it and be like, ooh, I know what you did there, and that was fucking nasty. Not for the 90% who are like, can you play Losing It by Fisher?
Yeah.
Like, no, right? That's part of just doing your own thing, you know?
Yeah. That's a good point of like whether you're doing it as like an artist show versus just like, hey, cool, you're playing Whiskey Row downtown.
Oh, yeah.
Because the way that you're gonna play your sets are gonna be completely different. Or like going to some of these Skydeck shows. Like I went to Loud Luxury. Obviously, you were there with Jack for Steve Aoki. But yeah, like for I think of it when I go there of if I'm playing that set for a show like that, it's a completely different set.
Oh yeah.
Than if you're just like a nightclub night. And obviously catering to who you're opening up for or anything like that too is something completely different. When you DJ, are you a stick guy or are you a computer guy?
Oh, stick guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I back in the day, a computer guy, right?
Yeah.
This is one thing that I will say, right? I remember back in college, it was like before I was like using USBs and whatnot. There was this one venue I would play at, and I would just plug in my laptop because I'm playing 5 hours, and it was on CDJs, but it was just so much easier to just be like, I want a song. Oh, I know what song fits perfectly in it. Search bar, type, load, right? Yeah. And it's just something that's so much more efficient about that. Like, yeah, I get it. USB sticks, like play your set, but like there was a certain level of like improv and like playing off feel, which is to its roots what DJs do, right? Mm-hmm. That you could have with a computer versus obviously on USBs without like prep.
Yeah.
Because like, and I don't mean prep like I'm planning out a whole set, but like prep as an example of,
you know, a couple
like,
songs you're going to throw in.
Cue points, for example. I remember before like I would play there, right, on Thursday nights, I could download like 100 songs, right? And that time you save by being like, bing, song in my head, search, load, I could scrub through the whole song, find where I want. I could set 6 cue points.
Yeah.
And I still have like 40 seconds before I got to mix in. Whereas like if you're scrolling, you got to go there. And if you didn't have cue points on USBs, you're loading and then even track searching rather than just dragging with the mouse over. You're just like, what are you spinning a jog wheel, spinning like or tapping the, you know, search or whatever. I
know what kind
of
CDJ you're on. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just kind of a nightmare. And it was just great because you could just play off feel. But obviously like in EDM, like it's a little bit different, you know. You obviously want to take your time with mixing and whatnot compared to like playing an open format.
And
right?
dropping fucking just kind of 200 songs and
bang, 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 right? It, in an hour and a half, you might only drop 30 songs, right? Or maybe like 50 as opposed to like 100.
Yeah.
So you have more real estate. But I
just always love the argument. Like it always comes up on Twitter or like something where it's DJs just end up bitching about like, oh, this is better. I'm like, they both just have like benefits to them. I look at it the same way where like for me, I play off a laptop all the time. I always have my sticks with me and I like keep them updated just in case anything happens. I just have a stick always plugged in. I just, for the same kind of reasons where it's so much easier for me to just fucking, I know every shortcut on Serato and I can just fucking fire through, find a song, load
efficiency.
It. Yeah.
Efficiency. Yeah. This is the other thing too. It's like best creative advice I ever heard. I got this when I was like looking for camera upgrades, right?
Yeah.
And there's this guy, like his name is OMG Adrian, one of the best content creators out there right now. And it's video instructional, but the way he delivers the message, it's just phenomenal, right? And anyone can take notes from it. But he did a creative like piece of advice when he was talking about like the best camera to get, right? 2023, and it was on Instagram. And he said, the best camera is the one you have now. And I was just like, oh, it's one of those. And then he goes into his list and he's just like, it's your tools, right? You get the same end result at the end of the day. Whatever can get you that end result quicker, right? That's the best one for you to use, right? You don't, and then look at it from like, I'll look at it from like a video perspective, right? If I took one of those IMAX, cinema cameras that any famous director films on, right? And then I'm just like, oh, this camera's worth, a mortgage basically on $1 million mansion, right? And I go and shoot there on that camera. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, right? I don't know how to use that. I'm going to get an absolutely terrible video out of it. And guess what? I couldn't even probably edit it, right? But I walk in with a $1,500 camera, right? And a $500 lens. I'm going to make a sick video. So it's like the best equipment is the one you have now. And so look at DJs, right? K Tronado for the longest time. He pulled up there with a little tractor, right? And a computer.
Yeah.
Seen him on main stage in Lollapalooza doing that. Zed, he was an Ultra Miami tractor. Same thing in a laptop. Yeah, he switched to USBs for just like convenience because then you don't always have to travel with a laptop. But and
then his USBs failed.
Yeah, but
literally just happened.
But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah,
you get the same end result. And people get so tied up in that, whether it's a DAW, right, camera, where you DJ, it's kind of like this.
Literally just whatever you're comfortable with. Yeah,
dude, it's just art. Make art. Yeah, right.
That's why I like. I always like to familiarize myself with everything, just so that way I am comfortable on whatever, like whether it's laptop, computer, whether it's controllers, CDJs, turntables. Like I made sure learning the process that I taught myself on everything.
Oh yeah, that's the most fundamental part is just learning it. Because if you have a scale 1 to 10 knowledge, right, and we'll say if you have a 10 out of 10 knowledge on a tiny little like Newmark controller in a computer versus a guy who's got a 2 out of 10 knowledge on CDJs, you're going to be a million times better DJ.
I can't tell you how many times I've had DJs like come on before or after me and like don't even know how to fucking plug into a mixer in CDJs. And I'm like, how'd you get this?
Yeah.
Like, how'd you get this gig? And it's always just fucking crazy to me. I'm like, I feel like it should literally be like the first thing that you do is just learning how to set shit up, but not everybody knows how to do it. So but
no, I feel that.
It's just mind blowing to me. Like I'm like, how do you do this shit every week? Like fucking figure it out, So going back to the production side of things, obviously since moving here, you're living with a couple other people that do a lot of production, getting out to different venues, different festivals, stuff like that. I mean, tell me some cool stories of who have you been able to work with? You've been collaborating with like any different artists, any different people like from Nashville or any bigger ones?
In Nashville, I mean, I wouldn't say anything like major big per se, but like Nashville is just so rich in music, and the people here are genuinely here for the music and the love for it. Whereas, I've lived in Arizona. A lot of people there are not entirely for the music. They're doing it. I've seen people who are there for like the image, right? Or just like the status you get, or, not really music to its core. They're just a fan. We're here, like there are music nerds that I can connect with, right? Same thing.
Fully nerd out.
Fully nerd out. But like they're not there to say like, oh, let's collab and
Yeah.
we just got to make a band. People just show up to my house and be like, yo, let's make music. Just fucking make music.
Yeah.
Right? And like that is a very special thing about Nashville. But like even before I moved here, I think one of the interesting things that has happened in my music career so far is a cool little story I'll tell you. So this was when I was living back at home with my parents, right, in New York. And at this point, I had not released a single song under like the Xander music artist project. So we're not on Spotify, nothing on SoundCloud, like etc. But I've just been producing for at this point, what, 3 years? I want to say, 2018 to 21 ish. And basically, I have all these ideas, right? And they're very, very good. But I was getting so caught up in just like perfectionism and chasing that, back in those days. And I would constantly be like overthinking things. So the reason why I didn't have anything out is not because it wasn't good. I was upset at myself being like with the, rich music background I had that I was 10% off of like, let's say the top of the industry sound. Now it wasn't reality. This is just a metaphorical figure for my brain, right? But I was being upset that I was 10% off like top of the game sound rather than realizing that also means I'm 90% better than the rest of the pool. And so my mindset was so focused on that 10% and achieving that songs that I had that were very good in my eyes were like, no, it's not good enough.
So you listen back to them and just be like, you just pick apart like every single part and be like, ah, shit, this isn't good enough. Or like, what do you mean as far as like that 10%?
I would get songs to like 85% done, right? Where they just need a couple little like glue things in and right, maybe like a little bit with like a mix master and it's done, right? But I'd just sit there and I'd be like, oh, but it could be better because I'd hear a song, get inspired by it, and I'd be like, this is boring, right?
Yeah.
Or just like, this is too simple, blah, blah, blah. But again, it's all relative. And I wasn't being relative with my comparison, right?
Yeah.
I was putting myself up with the top EDM artists in the game, right? And in reality, I had to have a vision switch. So with this story, right, again, to backtrack, I go in, I have no music out at this time, right? And I get a call from a buddy of mine, and he goes, yo, what are you doing on like this date in June? And I was just like, nothing mind. He's like, oh, Riff Raff is playing his tour in Buffalo, and I got spots on the list if you want it.
Yeah.
Now this time I live downstate, not in Buffalo anymore. And then this guy didn't realize it, and I was like, oh, I live downstate, like New York, probably like 6 hours away, 5 hours away. So then I was just like, I don't know if you know this, but I actually like produce music now and whatnot. So I have a lot of songs. I'd love to send you some music and, just for Raff to listen, see if you by miracle wanted to hop on one, right?
Yeah.
Or, so then he gets back to me and he's just like, oh, dude, we're in the studio every tour stop. He's like, just book the studio. We'll be there. And I was like, all right, say less. Hung up the phone, text buddies, fired him out, right? And I was just like, let's go, right? And so keep in mind, dude with no songs out, gets reached out to by a mutual friend connection, right? Who is Riff's tour manager. And now all of a sudden I got a studio session locked in with Riff Raff in Buffalo. And I was just like, what the fuck? But how this all gets set up, how do I know his tour manager? Interesting point. He was a guy on Instagram who had a mullet shampoo company called Miracle Flow. Shout out Miracle Flow. And he reached out to me in his like early business phase, DMs me. At this point, I'm a college DJ, right? And I have a mullet. And he's like, dude, you're a music artist with a mullet. Dude, I'll send you a free bottle of shampoo if you post it on your story. And he's from Rochester, which is like an hour down the road from Buffalo, right? And both like Bill Sabres, stuff like that. Sure thing, post that on, boom. So he does Miracle Flow, right? Jody High Roller, like,
wants his fucking,
of course he has a mullet. So he ended up doing a shampoo line with Riff under Miracle Flow. Right. And then
Versace mullet.
And so then he likes how his name is Philly, right? Philly runs business and all this stuff. So then Philly becomes his tour manager, right? All these dots start connecting. So if I don't respond to a DM as a sophomore in college, right?
Just a random ass DM about mullet shampoo.
Then I don't get a studio session with Riff Raff years down the road. And so I walk into this, sure enough, book the studio, and I'm sitting there like, oh, they're going to fucking bail, right? Like, nah, they're not. There's no way they pull up. I have an engineer. I have a friend with me doing content, and then it's me. And we rented out this great studio in Buffalo. The Goo Goo Dolls actually own it.
Yeah.
Like the place. Beautiful setup in RCA Studios. And so, sure enough, I get the text, like, he showed up a little late, but boom, open the door. It's Philly, it's Riff, it's vocal engineer, right? Is the other manager, the whole crew pulls in. I'm just like, no fucking shit, right? Riff has no idea who I am, right? Concert probably in like 6 hours from now.
Yeah.
So I walk into it, and then sure enough, even though in my mind I'm thinking I don't have any music out, right? I'm so underqualified. In that moment, I believed I'm more than qualified to be there. And I think a lot of it just has to do with taking advantage of opportunities, right? Now, at the end of the day, yeah, I should have had music out, right, and whatnot. But the reality of it is I chose to be present in that moment. You know what I mean? So we ended up working on a bunch of different things, and we got some vocals down, right, and things like that. But at the end of the day, I'm an artist with no music, produced them for 3 years, and I just worked with Riff Raff on a fucking song, right? Yeah. And then the craziest moment of all that is then one of the songs that we worked on, his vocal engineer was there, and he was about to head out, and so was Riff. And he goes, "Oh, do me a favor, can you send me those vocals and then send it like to the instrumental?" I was like, yeah, no problem, right? And I was like, "What's the email?" So he sends me his vocal engineer's email, and then afterwards, and he's like, "Oh yeah, one more. The person who made the original beat idea, I need you to send them the vocals too, right?" And I was like, yeah, sure. What's the name? And he goes, nils@yellowclaw.com. And I was like, Can you say that again? And he's like, yellowclaw.com. And I was like, because like Riff Raff is rap music, obviously, at the end of the day. So like, yeah, that's cool. But like, I'm an EDM artist, right? Yeah. And this motherfucker says Yellow Claw, and I was like, whoa. And that's where it really full circle like sunk in, which is like, you fuck if you're underqualified or overqualified. Your mindset needs to be that you're the most qualified person in that room
in every situation,
because it's just opportunity, right? And if you're not there to take advantage of that moment and just take action, you're really never gonna get anywhere. And that's kind of what I learned, and that was that like moment that clicked for me, which is I need to stop overthinking my music, right? I need to stop being a perfectionist, because in this moment, me not being wrapped up in that and overthinking got me to accidentally working on one of the song or a song with one of the biggest artists, right, in EDM, right? And that just goes to, and I was like, all right, boom. And then that's where things started really like clicking and going full forward.
Yeah. So then what did you end up like using any
but
stuff,
it's not finished, it's not there. There's still a lot of back and forth, whether that's gonna be a song with Yellow Claw, I doubt it, right? But at the end of the day, like, no, I still have the project. I'll give you a listen afterward.
Yeah, that's fucking sick. We see on like social media a lot of, I see it at least from like DJs, of just being like, hey, post your shit, put stuff out, like whether or not you think it's good or not, or fully finished, like you were talking about being like, it's at 85 or 90%. Like, I don't think it's 100% good enough out.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's something that I do too, where it's like, I just, even starting this, I was like, fuck, like I don't know if this is good enough, because I look at it in my eyes of every little different thing that I see wrong, and then I'm like, like I don't know if I want to post this or not.
Fuck it, post it.
Yeah, and then finally we're just like, fuck it, we're putting it out. So, and now we're rolling. So, and that's something we touched on before, where it's like each episode is gonna just keep getting better and better and better. And you just kind of figure shit out. So
you just do it. Just fucking do it.
Yeah. That's the new motto now. So
yeah, shout out Nike. Phil Knight, what a genius. Just do it.
That's all you need. Yeah. But so as far as photography, videography, like how'd you kind of stumble into that then?
Yeah. So that kind of ties just into your point, what you said with like just putting shit out there, right? Because that the first battle is music, right? Once you're an artist, right? And it's just the music side. But then when I was at that period of starting to release music was when TikTok and like Instagram Reels and like that kind of branding was very, very like forefront in mine. And so it was a weird time to start being an artist, because you're like, oh shit, I just spent, the last like 4 years trying to get out of my head just to put music out here, and now I got a whole nother hill to climb. And so being quick to learn, I was just like, fuck it, let's do it. Didn't need a camera, right? Didn't need a crazy setup. I had a few friends around me who, they're all videographers, so thankfully I could pick their brains, right? I could understand how to edit, or what did I want to achieve, and they could explain it. I could take care of the rest. But then, making TikTok, same thing. And I was just like, oh, okay, cool. Put shit out there, market myself, a little bit of branding, all that stuff. And then as I got more and more with like, writing ideas, releasing, I was just like, oh, there is importance in TikTok and making content. So then I'm making iPhone content, cool, whatever. But then I was like, well, what if I bought like a camera, right? Like a little crop sensor camera, $600, put like a $400 lens on it. So like a grand. And I was like, yeah, no problem. I'll do that. And it was a way for my content to stand out. But then I also viewed it as it's so hard to get photos, right? Even sometimes as a DJ, right? We're an artist, right? Because like the overhead, paying a photographer all those times. I'm like, shit, I could have a roommate just I'll set the camera up. All I have to do is point and shoot. Now I just got free Instagram posts for the rest of my life. And I was like, all right, cool. That's a life hack. Yeah. So I got a camera, right? And then started filming shit on that. Yeah. First stuff was kind of bad. Don't get me wrong, right? But then me being the quick learner, I was just determined and confident to obviously pick up on it. And then I started doing it. And then my content starts leveling up, not just with like how it looked, but like execution overall, concepts, things like that. And then my brain starts getting tickled by that, and we go deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole. And then I started, at that point I was like, oh shit, I kind of know how to use a camera.
Yeah.
So I bought my first camera literally, I want to say like end of July or maybe like middle of July of 22. And so where are we at right now?
Coming up on a year.
We're May. Yeah. I haven't even been in this for a fucking year.
Yeah.
And yeah, sure enough, like, bought that camera, and then my friends, after I got good at it, right, they were just like, yo, can you just pull up and take photos, right? Take video for my show. And yeah, I botched some videos there too, right? And I was just like, yeah, this is not going to work. But what was I doing in reality is I was fucking up, right? And
but you're gaining experience.
I had a great chance to learn from it. And there was always something that came out of it, right? To then keep doing that. Yeah, I'll do some shit for free, get some content for people, right? And just practice and all that stuff. Next thing you know, I was like, oh, I think I really kind of know what I'm doing, right? And then all it took was just observing, what do I like? What are other people doing, right? And then just practicing doing it myself, which is the same way how I learned like music production. And that's just because my ears. I'd listen to shit and I'd hear it and I'd be like, all right, now time to make that.
Like, what can I put out that sounds similar to this, and just kind of make it your own.
Not even just
way.
like put out, but just from like an ear training perspective.
Yeah.
Like you hear something, how is that made? So same thing with video, and then I'd learn that way. And so then finally with like photo and video, I think I got to like November. I was really just over being in corporate America. Now this is year 4, right? In corporate America. And I was someone who wanted to drop out of college. So I'm just like, fuck this. Like every day, 8 hours of my day gets thrown away to not progressing my dreams, right? And the end goal is to be touring, EDM artist at the end of the day, right? But I was like, you got to get money to get there. And so it's just like, oh shit, I kind of am like decent at photo and video, right? What if I quit corporate America and built out revenue streams through whether it's DJing open format, whether it's music lessons, right? It could be through photo and video. And I was like, huh. And then I did the whole math. I was like, what do I make now? What can I live off of, right? Per year. And how can I get that per year through photo and video? And then sure enough, like I think a week later, I hop on the call, like on a Zoom with my team manager. Yeah. And then they're like, yeah, your performance is like kind of dropping a little bit. What's going on? And I was like, yeah, I don't know if I'm all like mentally locked in there. And then by the end of the conversation, they were just like, are you thinking about quitting? And I just thought, and I was like, yeah, I resigned. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, effective today. And they're like, whoa. And I was just like, oh. And I felt this weight just go, whoa,
just fucking
right
lifted.
I was there. Yeah, I was there with my girlfriend. She was there, and she was just like, oh, bless her heart. She's probably like, what the fuck am I getting into?
Yeah,
because we weren't even dating at that time.
Yeah,
but it was just one of those moments. I'm like, holy shit, clarity, right? I'm finally waking up, getting to do what I love. Now, don't get me wrong.
This is all over just like a Zoom call.
Oh yeah, get the fuck out. I'm out doing my own thing.
And then you just fucking exit.
Signed off for the last time.
Out of the window.
And never again. But I think the reality of it was like, yeah, if I went back, would I have loved to build out a more effective business plan, right? Or had some more retainer clients? Sure, right? But it's just what I was touching on. Like, you have to fuck up to learn to get better, right? And this whole time, the whole 4 years of my life, I was, in my head, music was my main hustle, and work, like corporate America, was my side hustle, but time told a different story, where corporate America was my main hustle. And then when I went to do music, what was time-wise my side hustle, I treat it like a main hustle. So then it's like 8 hours of work and then like 12 hours of music, and I was getting 4 hours of fucking sleep.
Yeah.
And I'm not eating, right? Then I'm not going to the gym, hanging with friends. And then I'm just like, I'm still kind of in the same depressing cycle. And I was just like, let's just fuck this. I want those 8 hours back. Right?
Yeah.
And then I took command of that. And then, yeah, same thing with photo and video. Like I touched on that riffraff story. I'm not the world's best videographer even today, and especially back then, right? But I just had the balls to go up and just say, I'm just gonna do this, right? And yeah, we're still in the process of figuring it out, but the same steps have been taken where it's like I've gotten into places and different opportunities solely because of being present. Because I convinced myself in my head, I am capable, I'm good enough to be here, and I can do this, right? And so that's all because I wanted to make a TikTok. That's how I got into this and quit corporate America.
So getting into videography, obviously it's not even been a year yet since you've been into it. So what have you been getting into? I mean, as far as who you've been able to shoot, who you've been able to work with, whether it's photography or videography or both. So
good question. I think where it originally started out was just with like peers in the space, right? VDM and shooting their stuff, right? But then once you're there, and all it takes is just like, here's a good example. I would use this strategically. If I go shoot a show where my friend's playing support for bigger artists, bigger artists on, I got my camera. I'm taking free content for them. Go to their tour manager. Hey, I took content for you. What's your email, right? Boom, they give you your email to your team. Well, congrats. You're going to deliver them your content. You're shooting your shot there. But also, hey, I just got big artist team's email. I can send them my fucking music if I want to, right? It worked both alleys in a way.
I didn't think about it with the for you having the music too, of being able to have that as a way in for your music too.
Works both angles. So that's really what it was. And then I kind of like that, and that's why I feel like when I first got my like roots into photo and video, probably the most like untraditional way is like focused on low light nightlife stuff, where like people get a camera and they're like, I'm gonna go take vibey pictures of the sunset or flowers or my friends with daylight. And I was just shooting shit in like one of the most challenging conditions, and like looking back, kind of thankful for that, because you have to take all your basic principles of photo and video and kind of break them and find that breaking point of like, okay, if we break them this far, we're going to lose quality on the image, right? But like if we just go right before that, we're going to get a good happy medium, right? Of it's light enough, right, to shoot what you want to. And then also you're not going to ruin image quality. But then now that I go back and I like shoot normal shit, I'm like, oh, this is a cakewalk, right? Because I like mastered like pushing the limits on my camera very quickly. But that comes down to, again, putting myself into an opportunity, right? And whatnot, and just taking advantage of it. So then, I saw cool artists and like opportunities I've shot for. I've got to work with even like the local shows here, right? Could be artists from like Mala, right? I'm trying to think of a few others. Murata, who's a big dubstep and tear out DJ, and he's such a cool guy too, right? But through that, I met a lot of people in the dubstep community. Versa, Tape B, got to shoot for them. Peekaboo was a really cool opportunity. He had a show at the Caverns in Tennessee here, right?
Yeah.
And then it was just him. So big fat crowd, cool production. And then I was already shooting there for just the event, right, side of things, and covering it from a photo video perspective. But then Peekaboo reached out to the event company and basically said, oh shit, we need content. Do you have a guy? They sent him my way. And all of a sudden, like, I'm texting one of the biggest, one of the bigger dubstep DJs
guys,
right now. Yeah, we're talking about content, but then like you also got to think from a networking standpoint, right? If you can provide value to people, right, and then just be a genuine, normal human being and not just be like a dick rider, right, or just like be super passionate about like, oh my god, yeah, it's best, and they're just like, whoa, right?
They just get fucking annoyed.
People will fuck with you, right? And then all of a sudden you're developing a relationship that was not based off, oh, like you're gonna do something for me. It's kind of like, hey, I'm gonna do something for you, right? And we could be cool, right? Next thing you know, like what happens down the road. And that's not a case with Peekaboo, right? But you could just be like, oh, I make music too, right? It kind of comes in a natural way, right?
Yeah.
But that's how you kind of open doors in a sense. So with Matt, then like, yeah, I shoot for him at the Caverns. We do photo, we do video, or I'm in touch with him and his tour manager, right? And all this stuff, kind of taking a little bit of creative direction. And it was a sick show, right? Like never once shot in a show that big.
Yeah, I've never even been to the Caverns. I've just seen like from Instagram, like obviously like John Summit just being there, and it looks fucking insane where it's just in a cave.
Raven Cave, baby.
Yeah.
But this is one thing I will say, back to the whole theme of just not doing stuff, but just believing in yourself, you're capable. I've shot for artists at this point, but I think one thing I never really did was, any big DJ, they're like, oh, let's take a picture with the crowd. And then the lights come on and it's like, you've got like 5 seconds to nail that shot.
Yeah.
Or like, doesn't matter. You could shoot the best video and photo of your life. If you fuck up that photo, you're like, dude, failure, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't even worth coming out. So there's this podcast I listen to called the 505 podcast, right? And it's just a bunch of like photographer, videographer, creatives, and they talk all about that industry and interview other people, in that realm. And so they have, what is it? Oh, Two Friends. It's Two Friends content guy. I want to say, no, let me take that back. Chop that out. Loud Luxury.
Okay.
Yeah. So Loud Luxury's, content guy is on that pod. And so he always talks about the different sides of how he got into, EDM and like nightlife photo and video with them. And he told this story about like the first time he had to take the crowd shot at the end. And he goes like, dude, it was the worst. He was like, made the best photos, right? Or took the best photos and videos. And I get to that end moment and I wasn't ready. And so they're like, oh, let's take a photo with the crowd. And he's like in this big, like, beautiful venue and whatnot. I don't remember where it was.
Yeah.
And he goes up there and he's like, boom. And he takes it. And next thing you know, it was like overblown, way too fucking bright. And they're like, thank you. And the next thing he was like, I didn't get it. And so he said every show after that, he just goes like, I'm just going to take 2 minutes, right? And read the room with my camera and see the lights and just be like, I'm going to dial those camera settings in, right?
Just
Make
right
sure
away.
when that moment
Yeah.
hits, it's not going to fuck up. And thank God I caught that episode because then I'm on my way to the caverns the whole time driving. I'm thinking, you're not fucking up that end photo, not fucking up that end photo. And then we ended up nailing it. And it was one of the photos he posted on his Instagram too. Right?
Hell
And
yeah.
I was like, oh, let's go. So
Did you get a tag?
Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah.
So shout out 505 Podcast. Saved me on that one.
Yeah, that's crazy because I feel like DJ producer wise, like they have so much content, especially on that larger scale where those bigger name producers are putting out shit every day.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like someone like me, I need to be way better at my content and just putting stuff out on Instagram, TikTok, stuff like that. But having a good picture and video from every fucking show is just like endless content for days.
Oh,
that
100%.
Then you're just building up followers and fans and all that kind of stuff every fucking day. So you end up just like sending all that shit over to him right away?
Yeah. So that night I what was it? I went home, edited, or I had to drive him from the cavern. So
yeah.
I think it
How
went
far away is that?
Hour 40.
Oh damn! I didn't know where the fuck it is. Yeah.
So then I drive home and then I dumped him all the content video wise.
Does he not have like a team for it or what?
I think he takes a different setup where it's like he's smart with it, right? Because I wasn't making him an edit. I was just shooting live clips from the crowd and whatnot. And if you think about it, like what's popping in this market, it's like short form content, right?
Yeah.
So like, yeah, you could post edits, but it doesn't really like connect with the crowd, right? And so he just said, shoot a bunch of raw clips for me, dump them. My team will just go through them and like edit them. And then he's armed with what, like 30 different clips for short form content that he can repurpose. And those clips are not just like, I'm not recording 30 seconds. I'm recording like 2-3 minutes sometimes, right? So yeah, like that's what they did. So they took care of the video. And then the next day I woke up, edited all the photos and then just pumped them out to him, right? And then that was that. But I think that was one of the cooler opportunities. I've gotten to travel to Miami. Got to shoot at Oasis, right? In Wynwood, which I've never been to Miami. Cool spot. Thought it was going to be a small venue, right? Or like a niche show. I'd never been there, obviously. Pull up, massive show, massive crowd. I'm like, holy shit. And then the lineup was like Hugel, Solardo, right? Like Clooney was on there too. Like all big tech house DJs.
Yeah.
And then next, I'm shooting this awesome venue and like good production and these big artists. And then I'm taking shots from everywhere, kind of like front crowd, right? In between the rail, right? Middle crowd, back side, going behind like the decks and everything like with them. And I think at one point I'm shooting for Hugel. And then as I'm like, I was in photo mode, right? And so I'm just like, snapping photos of him, crowd, and then this dude kind of walks up from my right, and I'm like locked in like this, so I can't really see. Then everyone starts going, and so I can like pull up my camera and I look, and I'm like, I don't know who the fuck that is, right? So I've just stayed locked in to take photos, and then like Hugo and him, they're dapping up, they're all like hyped up and whatever, and I'm just like, okay, cool, photos of that, bing, 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 and then he starts DJing, so I'm like, okay, might be another artist on the lineup.
Yeah.
And then I'm taking photos of both of them, right? And I got some killer photos. And then when they dapped up, right, and all these things, and then I see somebody tag me in a story, one of my friends, and it says like me and blah, blah, blah shooting. I didn't even read what the caption was. I was just like, oh yeah, look, cool, me filming, storied it, boom. Woke up the next day to like 15 texts, and like even from my mom.
Yeah.
And so they're all just like, you're shooting for Idris? You're shooting for Idris? What? And I'm
like,
like,
is Idris Elba?
Oh, what's that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Idris who walked up on stage and DJ'd. I had no idea.
What?
Right? But that, yeah. And so then like you can add that to a list of people I randomly shot for. Yeah, it's indirectly, but it's, yeah, like just be there, be in the moment, take advantage of it. And so, yeah, next thing you know, you ask for the people like, hey, team, what's your team? Like, who can I talk to? Get you these photos, right? Next thing you know, you're just growing your network slowly and slowly and putting yourself out there. And that's not just even to like the internet crowd, right? That's just putting yourself out there to the people who would hire you inevitably and things like that. So yeah, that was a pretty cool one. I'll show you some of the pictures.
Yeah, Idris Elba's dope. It's crazy because he's such a fucking huge actor. And then that motherfucker will just go and play house sets at like afters for hours.
Oh yeah. The weirdest part too for me is like, funny enough, I'm in like videography, but growing up, I was never the biggest like nut about like actors or directors.
Yeah.
And my sister, she works, full time in like the film and media landscape, but on much more of like a traditional and professional realm, right? So she's huge into all that movie stuff. And she hit me up. She's like, how the fuck were you shooting for Idris?
Yeah.
And I literally texted her. I was like, I don't know who that is. And she's like, motherfucker. And then she sent me, and I'm just like, oh, this guy's touted to be the next James Bond.
Google. Yeah.
I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
It's just like, wow. But yeah, it goes to show how out to lunch I can be sometimes. Yeah.
So when you're talking about shows like that, I mean, obviously, like talking about Idris Elba just kind of walking past you, and you kind of don't even notice. And yeah, like I get it. Like maybe you just didn't know who he was either, but are you just kind of locked in too when you're doing stuff like that?
Yeah. I think it's also just like that's kind of who I am. Like my multitasking ability, probably not the best, but it's also like once I get sucked into that creative flow state, whether it's, music or video, so once I'm in there, right? And I'm sure you experience it with DJing too, right? Once you're playing, right? And you start, once you get that, first 10 minutes of the mix out of the way, you're just going on a feel. You're just in a zone, and like, whether it's a girl saying, can you play Drake? Or like someone spills a drink on the decks, like it's kind of hard to take you out of that like mental state. So it's the same thing with photo video, right? Like your creative brain is tickling, and I'm just like, I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah. You're just fucking locked in, just shooting, just making sure you don't miss that crowd photo.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, do you find that there's like a correlation between now that you've been like shooting more shows and kind of events like that, you find like a correlation between music and like shooting the photos and videos?
Yeah, because you got to keep in mind, like, I think that's why I've been able to grow to a certain level of how I like have within, EDM photo and video, is because like my main job is being an EDM artist, right? So when I look at it, it's like, I know from their point of view what they want for content, what like the market, right, or other DJs, what they post for content, right, or photos, right, the angles, like the actions, etc., what constitutes good content versus bad content. And I already understand the workings of a show, right? Like, so for example, if you have a photo or video guy who isn't an artist, and this is not the case, but let's say a new guy, right, they're gonna look at your decks and be like, oh, look at those lights, like, oh, that looks so sick, and like take all these things, where us as a DJ, it's like, I don't fucking care about that.
Yeah,
like,
I don't need a picture of my
nuts
fucking,
when the drop is going, right?
I don't need a picture of my hands.
And so that's a big thing, though, that I've noticed with confidence of shooting with other people, which is like, hey, don't worry, I speak your language, right? Like, you don't have to guess, like, is he gonna fucking nail this, right? Like, or what are you gonna take shots of? I'm paying you money, right? So that really has worked. And so there's a lot of cross similarities. I know what they look for. I know what they want at the end of the day, right? I know like what parts matter, what parts don't, etc. And I think that really helps, right? And that's not just even with like shooting EDM events. I'll give you a good example. Recently, I shot someone. They hit me up, and they were like, "Hey, I saw what you did with like Jack's vlog, right, for Steve Aoki and video work. I just dropped an EP, and I would love like some dance videos because she grew up, doing dance her whole life, and now she's dropping like a pop EP album, or I should say dropped it. And so, I've never filmed dance videos in my life, but I have a whole background of music and I have White Boy Has Rhythm, shocking. But and so then when we're like going live and going through it and she's doing her dances and I'm trying to frame her and everything, like I have the ability to then be like, okay, she does this movement at this count, right? And so after, 2 8 counts, she's going to be to the right. She's going to do this move, right? Or like on the third beat, she does this pop and I should do this camera like movement and things like that. And then when I'm trying to run it back to her saying like, okay, when I go in at this point, it's not just like this point of the song, like as you're about to finish this phrase, do this. So it's so much easier to like work and interact with artists like that when you know how to speak
you actually understand
the same
it,
language. And then the other half of it too is then like where I can fill the gap is, I might have never shown it or like filmed a dance video, but I know the angle like that they want. I know the look because I've seen that in my feed, right? All the time of people dancing or like shuffling to EDM videos, things like that. And I know how to color grade, right? And stuff like that. So it's just like I can solve a lot of people's problems, but also hang in that pocket too. So there's a lot that makes you kind of an all-around threat or just more versatile, right? And then like that ties back to the point I've been drilling in this podcast is opportunity, right? Like, so I'm able to like develop my, portfolio, like my clientele as well, and be in different pockets just because I kind of have exposure in a lot of different areas, right? And involvement throughout my past.
Yeah, whether it goes through shooting events like DJs and that, or shooting someone that's doing a video for dancing. I definitely think like it would be so beneficial having the mind of a DJ producer to be able to shoot that kind of stuff, because even like myself, I know what pictures that I want when I'm DJing. So for like, I would know to have full trust in you shooting an event that I'm DJing at, because you're like, oh, cool, like you know what kind of pictures and videos that you want. Like how to time the drops, because I've done sets before where like even a light guy is not like a music guy.
Oh, the worst.
And they just like don't hit the lights they don't like know when the drops are coming, anything like that. And you're like, what the fuck? Like it just kind of messes it all up. Where having you already with your experience, you're like, all right, cool. Like this is what's about to happen right now. I know I'm going to get a good shot right here.
Oh yeah.
And it's got to be super beneficial, I would think, for you kind of transitioning over into that field.
Yeah, adaptability wise, right? And like that's all it really kind of boils down to, right? And I feel you on the light thing too, because even as like as a DJ, you might wish you had it, but like think of me, I'm like, all right, long buildup, I know it's gonna happen, boom, and the light guy's taking a nap, right? And like I'm like, that's the moment, I'm like, dude, of course.
I guess I didn't think about it.
So I do this moment where I'm like, oh, you're kidding me. And then sure enough, he's like, oh shit, lights. And they go, brrr, and I'm like, fuck, I just missed that moment. And
you missed it because they missed it now. So
it's just, it's a weird, like kind of rhythm and flow back and forth. But then, I mean, also similarities too, is not just like ability to shoot, but I think another step is just kind of like creative direction, right?
Yeah.
And I look at myself, the whole reason why I'm doing photo and video is because I used it to leverage my own personal branding, right, as an artist. And then I was just like, oh, I'm coming up with these creative concepts, whether it's on like TikTok, right, or I'm doing photo shoots for myself, right, in the editing. I was like, I guess I can do this for other people as well. Yeah. And so, whether it's like if we're talking all around, right, if someone needs help with understanding distribution, right, or like getting their music out there, right, from the whole music side of things, right, I can help you with that. If someone needs help just from like branding, presence, content, like all these things, I can do that. So it's, that opens up my portfolio to work with people.
Yeah.
But then it also kind of like opens up my ability, even as running a business, to get paid, right? Because if you're only good at one thing, you have one option to get paid for.
Yeah, you're a little limited.
If you can combine a lot of different things into that, now you can get paid for a lot of different things, right? And that's kind of what I've tied into like the business side of things, right? And I think that's allowed me to grow and get into different pockets too as well, right? Just solely like taking creative direction of other artists, right, and their branding, and coming up with short form content ideas.
Yeah. So how do you work that in around here? I know, like, just from past experience dealing with DJs, things like that, everyone wants a photographer and videographer, but then I feel like a lot of the time, especially on a local scale of scene, they don't necessarily always want to pay the rate that it's going to cost for a good photographer and videographer.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a good call. And I've learned that lesson firsthand, right, myself, because, you know, I come into it and be like, I want to like be able to charge this, but reality is they don't have the money. But you got to think I'm in their boat too, right? Like, I know it's expensive, right? Not everyone has that chance to fund it, right? Because I myself am an artist and I was looking for content at one point before I had a camera, right? And had to do that. And it's tough, you know? So I think it's an ability to relate to them, because when I'm coming in from the lens of like, I'm an artist first, I just, you know how to do this. And this is now like my moneymaker. This is what pays my bills, versus like, oh, I'm only a photo video guy and I'm going to charge you this amount. They're not as comfortable with that just photo video guy, right?
Yeah.
Because they're the ones who are dead set. No, I need $650 for this project and that's it. And if that project isn't exactly the vision they wanted, then they're like, oh, fuck, I don't want to pay this, right? Yeah. And then that gives them the taste of like, when the next photo video guy comes up, they're like, nope, not doing it. But where, in my case, like, it's just business 101. You're developing rapport, right? And trust. And you need to have that foundation and an ability to relate and connect with them in order to really deliver the quality that they want. Because it's so much beyond just saying like, you want a good video? Here's a good video, right? Like, you're not going to get very far just off like a sole product alone, right? And grow your business. And so, you know, with these people, like, whether it's taking the time to like understand what their project is, what their vision is, right? Maybe providing more from like a thought input or an idea for that, but then also relating to them by like, listen, I'm an artist too. You know what I mean? So I get it. I know they're not rich, right? Yeah. Or loaded, right? Yeah. From their music career. We're all trying to grind and make it. So yeah, there is wiggle room with working with those artists, but I know in the overall benefit that it provides like to them, right? It's a service that I wish I had, and I'm kind of making that market happen here in Nashville. So where artists want content, they're not going to break their bank, but they're going to get, you know, more than what they paid for. And you got to look at it this way from a business side. If I can get someone a project that's $600 and I can do it for $300, right? And an artist is serious and they drop music every month. Yeah, I missed out on $300 on the first one, but if you work with them every month for every release, congrats. You just you just doubled what you would have gotten in the first place, right? And then you also have to keep in mind when artists and other people post you, there's like, you know, the whole societal effect of then your content's getting out there, right? Other people see you. And a lot of my business has solely come from people just being like,
I mean, that's
I saw you shoot this today, right? Yeah. I saw you shoot this, like, come do this, right? And then that has a ripple effect in itself, right? And you're reaching different audiences. And so, you know, okay, I missed it on $300, but I got 3 more clients. And then, you know, that same client that I quoted at 300 now locked me in for 4 months worth of work. So I just 4x my money with them. And I know like my purpose is not to, you know, make a fortune off artists like that or DJs, right? Or whoever it is, right? Because that's not the reality, right? Because I have other areas in my portfolio where
you can get
I
revenue.
do make that money, right? So that I can do other things at a discount, right? But it works both ways too, because, you know, it's not just photo video. I have my music project too, right? And so I could shoot content for someone who's the most unreal singer in the world, right? Or because I was shooting content and I was at that show, I met the most unreal singer in the world. And we, you know, vibed out, had a good music conversation. Next you know, they're coming over and we're making music, right? It's all about that like in-person opportunity and connection, you know? And so there's so much to gain out of that works for both like areas of what I'm like doing creatively that, you know, and I'm very fortunate to have that obviously from working with other clients that, you know, can pay what like standard rate is or above, right? But it's just value, what value you're providing.
Yeah, and that's what hard part is, like, because you don't want to like devalue yourself by taking less, but I feel like you explained it perfectly, where it's like, hey, I've been in your shoes, like I know what you guys are looking for.
I am in your shoes, I'm not a bad.
But at the same time, it's like you also know how valuable it is to have good photos, good video, all that kind of stuff. It's funny because that's where like looking at videos, pictures, stuff, I always like if you see them on Instagram, it's like I always like tap on it to see who's tagged, to like see like, oh damn, like who shot this video, who took this picture, and that's kind of what you're talking about, going into how you just end up getting out to more clients, where it's like one person posts your work and then they see, oh, cool, Xander's the one that took this video. Let me hit him up for him to do some stuff for me.
Yeah.
And it kind of just builds your client list and expands your brand out to even more people. Yeah. So it's nice.
And the other thing too is like, at the end of the day, we're all artists and we're trying to make it, right? And in this society, like music isn't enough anymore. And so there's such an importance of, you know, good content can make or break an artist in a sense, right? And if I can provide a service for aspiring artists to help them all grow, it levels up the Nashville music scene, you know, by X amount, right? I'm not saying I'm going to take Nashville and flip it upside down, but the reality is if more artists are continuing to pump out good content, right, get their music scene, like it's more than just like lining my bank account. This music scene grows bigger, right, and stronger. And then also I'm in this music scene. So it's like I'm fighting for the same team in a sense, right? Because if they're winning, I'm also winning too, from not just photo, but also the music part of everything, right? Yeah. And so it's like we can all help each other grow. And I think that's a good like shout out to Nashville for kind of the scene it's in. You know, I've seen scenes like Phoenix, I've seen scenes like LA, and it's not to like knock on them and say, oh, fuck them, right? But like there's such a different inclusive like mindset here where everyone wants to just like help each other get better, right? It doesn't have to be one specific thing, but creative wise. And people are very, very supportive of like the creative work you do, want to get involved, right? Or just want to be there to create solely what it is. Not just do it for like, I don't know, people doing things for clout, right? Or doing things for just attention, or, you know, like kind of just being exclusive and being like, oh no, like kind of gatekeeping. There's really not a whole lot of that there at all, right? And so, you know, if I can help tailor that vibe, right? Or help assist in fostering that kind of environment, like, fuck yeah, you know, everyone's got to do their part.
Yeah, it's kind of what we touched on a little bit earlier, where it's like since moving here, like I've felt the same way, where it's like the people that I have reached out to have been totally willing to help out. Which is awesome, and it's definitely good to have here, because in Milwaukee there's definitely those gatekeepers where they know stuff and then they're like, no, like I don't want to pass that to you, because then you're gonna end up knowing it. You could end up, they look at it as like a competition almost. So it's been a good change of pace here for that too. So, and
this is kind of like, this is the whole reason why you reach out to me, inevitably, right? Which, what was it? Oh, DJ photos. Yeah. Well, talk about that, because this is what I get a DM from, and I'm like, damn, you're spitting facts, but I was just like, I wasn't gonna say that.
So like I see a lot of times. Well, one, I've noticed like here in Nashville, a lot of the venues don't necessarily promote the DJs with like flyers and branded stuff like that, like they do in a lot of other cities. Where if you look at like a Chicago, a New York, a Miami, all that kind of stuff, you'll always see like DJ flyers, or the venue posting those on the story or anything like that. Here, I don't really see it a lot from any of the venues. And then what I do see is the DJs like having to create their own, which then is like another branch off of, hey, that's something that if you end up knowing it and you kind of add that tool, you can end up doing that for other DJs too. But I see a lot of the stuff from here, and the pictures that, well, not even just necessarily here, but here and DJs all over will post flyers, and they're just like shit flyers, because either they just have like an awful picture, or like their last press photo they took was fucking 10 years ago. Or it's just like a super blurry picture that like somebody took off an iPhone during their set one time. And then next time somebody asks them to make a flyer, they're like, oh yeah, send me your press photo. And that's what they send. It's like, how the fuck do you want me to work with this? Like, your left arm is cut off in this picture. And it's just blurry as shit.
Absolutely crushed with contrast. And they made it black and white, and you're like, all right.
And it's just like, it just shows the importance of having like press photos professionally done, because it makes it so much easier to have good content for flyers and things like that. But yeah, I definitely think that there's a need for it here, and multiple other cities. Like I know Milwaukee could too, and it'd be sweet to kind of set up, just like for DJs, just to be able to set up like a day to let everybody come out, and it's like, all right, cool. Like we'll all pay you for doing new press kits for everybody. And I think it's something that obviously talking about this value and how much it benefits everybody, that so many people would jump on board with it. Like if we did it for a day and just be like, cool, hey, we're setting up this shoot for DJs, bring a couple outfits, fucking come through, let's knock these out.
Yeah.
And it would work perfect.
You got to think of it, it's the same thing as like the professional workspace side of things where like, you know, you work for a company and they're like, all right, cool, we're bringing a photographer, we're doing LinkedIn photo shoot day, right? Nobody, your career is not going to be like make or break because of your LinkedIn profile picture, but you have an increased higher likelihood, right, of whether it's making connections, making that sale, introductions, because there's a professional presence to your profile, right? And that could be one connection away from a big fat ticket deal or your next big chance or not, right? So ultimately, like, branding really does matter. And I agree too, like, it takes little to no effort, right, just to get that next step of professionalism, right? And that ties into what I was saying, is just like, then the scene looked more professional. It's not just that one person, right? Because then, you know, these bars and like clubs, they're posting flyers, right, that look clean, right? They have clean press shots. All of a sudden, like, it goes from like a kind of like shitty flyer where you're like, what the fuck is this? To like, oh, this looks legit. That piques the interest of the potential, like, you know, people who come out to the event, whether it's for the DJ, whether it's for the bar, right? And so it's just more than just that one, you know, DJ looking a little bit more professional, like the whole scene, you know, like the whole point of just leveling each other up, right? And making sure everyone gets a little bit. So yeah, I mean, I'm 100% with that, right? Run and gun photo shoot, fuck 4, let's bring them all out.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, man. I know it's something that where it's like, obviously, if you put that out, we have all the connections with obviously all the fucking DJs in the city. We just did an awesome DJ meetup at Whiskey Row that Dirty Darren set up with DJ City, Beat Source, Crate Hackers, where there's fucking 100 DJs there.
Oh yeah. Should have done it there.
It would have been the perfect time. Yeah. Yeah. Just had a photo booth there. Honestly, that would be a fucking great idea to have that as one of the setups at a DJ meetup. So, but yeah, I mean, we'll get everybody linked up and then kind of try and set something for it. So but I mean, for you, looking at like future, what do you look at down the road? I mean, obviously, talking to you, music is a very, very large passion, whether you're teaching it, whether you're producing, whether you're out playing, but you're obviously good at the photography and videography.
I try to be. Thank you. I look at it as like finally quitting corporate America and getting to do my own thing, right? Yeah. It's not that being an EDM artist is going to make me rich and famous, right? Or doing photo and video. Like, no, I don't want to be the next Steven Spielberg and right, or like James Cameron and just do that, right? But like, they are revenue streams, and really what it ties into with like a Xander artist project, and like I said, being involved in both fields, is in reality I could build up a business, hire the right people who have a shared, you know, experience and background, right? And then I can go in and then I can provide that service for other people in the market as I grow, right? And I'm doing that now, obviously on a smaller scale, but what, you know, think of it down the road where if you're a touring artist, next thing you know, you see people and you're like, you're friends with them and you're like, oh, hey, I can help you with your content. I have a business that does this, right? With top-notch videographers who have experience in video and photo, but also the like music side of things, and they'll get you like looking clean. And it's so much more than just, hey, let's take photos and videos at your event. It's like branding 101, right? And then next thing you know, like you're kind of involved in a lot of pockets, right? But then that business, I don't need to be going out and shooting photo video for everyone, right? And things like that. But then the business will speak for itself because of all the experience, you know, down the road. We're talking 5-10 years, et cetera. Like my creative direction eye will be that much better, where then my own content that I'm putting out is heavily influenced by my vision, right? And then that branding from my own page sticks out for itself. And then that falls under like the same kind of portfolio, right? But then you also got to keep in mind, like just even music production services. You know, we talked about Diplo being on other records, like stuff like that, right? And that market will still exist where you can kind of be like a one-stop shop as a business, right? So, you know, the grand vision is to set up like a whole hub creative studio, like ideally here in Nashville, and, you know, basically have your one-stop shop for what you need. Do you need like a mix and master on a song? Do you want to come and do a writing session? Do you need to record vocals? Cool, you recorded a song. Let's get content for this song. We could do behind the scenes. We have a photo and video set up here. And I'm not just talking about like a little
green screen
background. Like I'm talking about a psych wall, right? Different sets, right? And this is very similar to what my friends in Buffalo did, who heavily influenced my, video and photo growth.
Yeah.
They're called Legacy House Studios, right? But they have picture Rob Dyrdek's Fantasy Factory, but for photo and video content.
Okay.
Right? That's what they have there. It's unreal. An 11,000 square foot facility. Guess what? Everyone in the community goes there because it's one of its kind.
Yeah.
Right? And everyone's getting their content done, from like Benny the Butcher, like rap people like that in the game, athletes like Josh Allen, right? And Bills players and all that, because that's the spot, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that doesn't really exist out here, but I want to do something the same but different, because it's going to involve music much more, where it's like a 50-50 split. So now artists can come in, right? They can get what they need from a music standpoint and a content, because that's where this market has gone, right? And so rather than paying, the photographer, videographer, their set cut, right?
Yeah.
And then doing your own music master and all these costs that are like so separated, it's
all in one place.
You can stop in for literally one day and you can get your song done, right? And then you can get your content done.
Yeah.
And you don't worry about it. All you have to do is just release music, right? And your content's all done. Whether it's an album cover, right? Your canvas for Spotify, like mini video, short form concepts in studio, like all these things, right? You want to make a music video, we could do that in there, right? All this stuff. And so like, that's a whole nother business too, right?
Yeah.
Whether I'm in there, shooting it, or I have, again, my team that's
people,
there, right? And so it's so much more than just like, oh, I like taking videos of EDM, like events or like stuff like that, right?
No, that sounds fucking dope. I mean, I had over COVID, like I just have an ongoing note of things that I think of and ideas that I have, and one of them is creating kind of like a studio like that for DJs. I obviously don't have the production knowledge of someone like you, but yeah, just being able to kind of go over the DJing part of things, and then obviously somewhere where you can get those press photos taken, you can get everything that you need made, from EPKs to how to work on your bios, and then going over all of like the ins and outs of the DJ scene, of working on like your marketing, your branding, how to get these gigs that you're wanting, and go over kind of a whole like lesson plan for that kind of stuff. And then obviously adding on something like the being able to shoot full videos for content, and being able to do all the higher end production things for writers, artists, producers, all that kind of stuff would be definitely something that would be huge here in Nashville.
Yeah, and you got to think about it. We talked about this with like the pricing thing, right? The dude doesn't want the $500 or $600 like photo guy to show up to his one event because they're not comfortable with him, right? But like, you'll pay the $1,000 ticket if you know you're gonna get everything checked off, which might be pricey, but comparatively,
you're getting it done
if
right.
If you're paying, $300 for your mix and master, you're paying $150 for your studio session, you're paying another $200 for just the cover art, like all these things, your cost savings will be smaller, right? And whatnot. But like, from a production value, that's really what it's all about, right? And then you can grow a community from just being like, oh, come over to my place, come to my studio, which is where all the best things happen, right? Creatively speaking, right? You now just have kind of a hub for that. People want to just come through and kick it, right? Kick it, not to work on anything, but just be around those like-minded creative individuals, right? Boom. Like,
that's what I think of as like a fucking WeWork type spot too, where it's like everyone can just come and just kick it, bounce ideas off of each other, brainstorm some stuff too.
There's just so many. You want to rent a studio, you want to rent a place to edit stuff, right? And all this stuff, like anything you can think of, you could ideally provide it. So that's really down the vision and developing different areas within business, whether it's just content or music, and there's other outside ventures, but ultimately, like, if you're a touring artist, right, there's so much overhead that goes involved in that. And then the fact of the matter is, I have all these, businesses that serve me in that DJ, like touring artist vision, but also line my bank account, right, as supplemental income in that case, to help fund and then also make me money. But then it's a career outside of that, like, if you want to have a family, right, save much to buy a house, kids, you name it, right, that's no longer like, oh shit, if this EDM thing crashes and burns, I'm fucked.
Because you still have this entire business entity to kind of fall back on too. Yeah, it'd be sick.
So
get some fucking investors. Find a building.
Shark Tank, where you at?
Yeah. Shark Tank Nashville. There we go. So what do you have? You got anything coming up event wise? Any shows you're playing? Any shows you're shooting?
No, not too much. I'm kind of on a different transition period here, right?
Just working on music.
Yeah, working on new music, different sounds, and all this stuff that I really want to start chasing towards. I feel like music's been a little stagnant from my end, just because I had to go launch a video company, right, and make fucking money. But now that we're back, right, feeling a lot more inspired and stuff like that. So been working on that, and then just balancing out ways to have video make me money and find that balance between what am I getting paid, how much time am I putting into it, right, making it much more sustainable, right, especially as a freelancer. But there are a couple events, but I can't tell you on pod. Right? Details have not been entirely leaked.
We got to put a announcement coming soon.
Big things coming soon.
No. One of those.
Absolutely not. Yeah. But I'd say it's exciting. Ultimately it's under a year, right? Yeah. So it's just the beginning. There's a lot of doors opening up around me, like pockets and stuff like that. So
that's good.
A couple big events, in the near horizon. Just we're all grinding, trying to find our way.
Yeah. Let them know before we sign off here where to find you on socials.
Yeah. So when we got music, we'll go do that. It's gonna be
two different socials. So let's get it straight here.
It's Xander Music. So ITS Xndr _MUSIC. Right. That's how we're gonna get on Instagram. But for photo video, you can find me at Xndr Flicks, FLICKS. So we got Xander Music, Xander Flicks, right? And
I'll plug everything in. Links will all be on the YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that kind of stuff. You'll be able to click on the links right there. Make sure you go give them a follow. Artists in the area, make sure you hit them up. Let's do some work.
Let's get creative.
Producing, writing, whatever you want to do. You seem very, very down to work and very knowledgeable with what you're doing. So
we're all trying to grow and get better. If you need some digital media consultation and creative direction, tap me in.
If you are a listener for the platform mix, make sure you guys are staying tuned for that. Just dropped one of my own, a little country EDM mix. I like to call it ECM, little electronic country music.
EDM?
EDM. I've seen that a lot too. I didn't want to take that name though because I've seen it out there too much already. We're into June already, so
fucking A.
Yeah,
time's flying.
Yeah, so that's Apple Podcasts, Mixcloud, SoundCloud. Make sure you go check that out. patreon.com/DJDexMKE, and then leave some comments on the show here. Let us know what you thought, what you like. Who you want to see on the show coming up here, and we'll be back soon.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks for having me on, man.
Thanks for stopping by, putting in the time, helping out. So
happy to come on. Yeah, it feels good. Yeah, we'll talk about leveling up your production game. We'll get you up and running
week by week. We're getting better, baby. We're getting better
step by step, baby.
Yeah. We'll see you guys later. Peace.